I will walk away from a great company, a cheap price, and a fat return, if owning it means crossing my conscience. Most investing content treats ethics as an afterthought. For me, it's the very first filter. So let me show you exactly where I draw my lines, and, just as importantly, why. Here's my starting belief. Strip ethics out of the equation, and even theft can be dressed up as good business. Money made by harming other people isn't wealth I want to hold. And experience has taught me something important. You don't have to choose between your conscience and your returns. You can keep your values completely intact and still build real, lasting wealth. Ethics isn't a tax you pay on investing. It's the foundation you build on. And look at the flip side. History is full of hugely profitable companies that made their fortune harming people, then collapsed under the weight of it. Take Purdue Pharma. It made billions pushing OxyContin while fueling an opioid epidemic that killed hundreds of thousands. Then came the lawsuits, the bankruptcy, and a family name that went from celebrated to disgraced. What goes around comes around. Before we go rule by rule, I'm really asking you to take away two things. First, the method, a clear, written, repeatable ethical screen you run before you ever look at a price. And second, something simpler, that we stay human beings, even in business. Yes, build your screen around your own values, draw your own lines. But some values aren't up for debate. Whatever our nationality, our religion, or our politics, almost all of us agree that killing innocent people is wrong. So if we agree on that, then don't put your money into the companies that build the tools to do it. That's not a political position. It's just being human. Business never cancels our humanity. It should express it. Rule 1. I exclude entire industries whose core business causes harm, no matter how profitable. Alcohol, and the damage it does to health and families. Gambling, which profits from addiction and desperation. Weapons built to kill. Interest-based finance, which I believe deepens inequality and traps people in debt. Adult content, and the exploitation behind it. Tobacco, engineered to addict and then kill its own customers. My reasoning is simple. If a company's core product only makes the world worse, no dividend makes that acceptable. And I hold it to zero tolerance. Even a small, incidental slice of revenue from these lines excludes the company. A wonderful business with one harmful revenue stream is still out. Clean has to mean clean. Rule 2 is the one people assume is political. It isn't. It's humanitarian. I don't invest in companies headquartered in the United States. Not because of anything against Americans. They're among the warmest people I've ever met. It's because the U.S. government gives the Israeli occupation government nearly $4 billion in military support every single year, funding a campaign that, in my honest view, is inflicting catastrophic harm on Palestinian civilians, what I believe amounts to a genocide. And that money ultimately traces back to American taxpayers and corporations. And here's the part that's too often missed. That funding doesn't only harm Palestinians. It harms ordinary Americans too. Nearly $4 billion of their tax money sent overseas every single year, while so many of them struggle with the cost of healthcare, housing, and schools at home, and get little in return. So this isn't a stance against Americans. It's a stance with them, and with the Palestinians. It's a humanitarian line that protects both peoples. I cannot, in good conscience, pour my own money into that same engine and profit from it, even indirectly. Now, this is my opinion and my line. Someone else might feel the same about other governments involved in other wars and exclude them too. That's the point. Put it in your own rules. And I know what you're thinking. The U.S. is the biggest market on earth. Doesn't excluding it mean giving up returns? Honestly, you'll be surprised. Some of the strongest businesses in the world are led from outside America. The biggest car makers on the planet are Japanese, German, and Korean. Toyota, Volkswagen, Hyundai. And China now builds roughly a third of all the world's cars. The most advanced computer chips? Made by TSMC in Taiwan. The most profitable company anywhere on earth? Saudi Aramco. One of Europe's most valuable companies in recent years? Novo Nordisk, from Denmark. Cars, chips, energy, luxury, pharma, world-beating industries, led from outside the US. In fact, America is only about a sixth of global manufacturing. Well over 80% of the world's production happens elsewhere. The opportunity beyond America is enormous. And the day this support for harm ends, I'll gladly invest there again. Rule 3 follows the same humanitarian logic, one step closer to the ground. I exclude companies with operations inside Israel and any name flagged by the BDS movement or listed in the UN's database of businesses tied to the occupation. The principle isn't geography for its own sake. It's that I won't own a business that operates within and profits from a system run by the Israeli occupation government that is inflicting harm on civilians. One nuance I'm strict about: simply selling a product to customers there is not the same as operating there. Ordinary trade doesn't disqualify anyone. Building and running your business on the ground, inside that system, that does. Rule 4 extends that same conscience up the ownership chain. If a company has an active owner, someone holding more than 10% who's also in control, on the board or running it, and that person actively funds or champions harm against civilians, then buying the stock puts money straight into their pocket. So it's out. But I'm careful. Passive index funds and pension holdings don't count. That's just the plumbing of markets. And weak associations don't count either. Someone who once visited or signed a generic letter is not the test. It has to be active, material support for harm. The question is always the same humanitarian one. Am I enriching someone actively funding harm to innocent people? If yes, I pass. So how does this run in practice? It all sits on a pre-built exclusion list, around 3,000 names screened out before I even start. And when a company is genuinely borderline, I don't quietly delete it. I flag it, with the evidence and source attached, so the decision stays transparent and I can revisit it. It's a documented, repeatable process, not a mood. And yes, I lean on tools, including AI, to gather and cross-check the evidence. But the final judgment, the values call, always stays with me. I'll go much deeper on exactly how I run this, the tools, the lists, the checks, in coming videos. If that's useful to you, subscribe and hit like so you don't miss it. Let me kill the biggest myth, that ethical screening means weaker returns. In my experience, the opposite is true. Cutting out harmful, scandal-prone, litigation-heavy industries removes a whole category of risk. It forces discipline, and it leaves me holding businesses I actually understand and believe in, exactly when investors hold through the hard times and let compounding work. Values and returns are not a trade-off. Done right, they reinforce each other. So that's my ethical screen, in full, the lines I won't cross, and the humanitarian conscience behind them. Take the method and build it around your own values. This is the foundation everything else on this channel is built on. And one important reminder before you go: everything I share on this channel is for education only. It is not financial advice, and not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. I'm simply explaining my own framework. Always do your own research, and if you need advice, speak to a licensed professional. If this resonated, subscribe and turn on the bell. There's a lot more coming. And I really want to hear from you. Drop your own ethical rules in the comments, the lines you won't cross. Let's learn from each other. See you in the next one.